Welcome everyone to another episode, session, whatever we want to call it. I haven't really figured out what to call it, but it's a gathering. Let's call it the gathering of being home with George during COVID. I'm really excited to be here. And as usual, one of the things that we're really interested in here is being able to open to the possibility of being able to hold the hurt and to generate the hope. And in this time, as we know, that in this time of COVID, there's over 170 plus or almost 180,000 people who have passed away, and over almost 5.5 million people who have been infected, and just the toll it's taken on folks. Folks that are concerned about being evicted or losing their homes, and all of the unemployed folks, and not getting a lot of support as we were getting several weeks ago from the government. But at the same time, we have to figure out how to be together and how to manage, how to self-regulate, so that we can do both. We can say, yes, the truth is, yeah, we're in pain, there's hurt, things are unsettling and uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty. And at the same time, we got to be hopeful. And as I've been talking about before, making a shift from doing to being. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Greg, and we were talking about our core values, or what our core values, or what our personal values, or what are the guiding ideas that help us to go beyond the illusion of separateness, to help us to understand that we have to show up. That being present, being in the moment. And I'm reminded, because I grew up Southern Baptist, the greatest commandment was to love God with all your mind, heart, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, there is the rub, loving our neighbor as ourselves, because I don't think we really do that. If we look at how we don't love our neighbors sometimes, we can't love our neighbors and still love ourselves. I think they're both connected, that we have to love ourselves and love our neighbors. We either love everybody or we don't love anyone. And this love isn't a romantic love. It has more to do with I guess, agape, or brotherly love, or love, or seeing the masterpiece, seeing the spirit, the soul in each other, and understanding I and the other are one, or understanding we're all connected. So this idea of love is a value, openness, and acceptance. And so when I think of love, I think of things like care. So if I love myself, I have to take care of myself. And if I am loving myself, I also have to be responsible for what my needs are, responsible for my words, thoughts, and actions, but also responsible for taking care of myself, responsible for knowing myself, so I know how to take care, and I know how to respond to my needs, and to respect myself. And that comes down to this idea that we all have a masterpiece or divine spark inside, and that we are all unique. And this uniqueness is something that, if we were to cultivate, to accept, have access to, and share it with others, things would be way better, much better. And we need that in this time, where how do we come together, and how do we hold people accountable, so that people are doing things that reflect love. Love thy neighbor reflects love. But in order to do that, I find, from my own experience, some of my core values have to do, love. Curiosity is a really important one. Being curious about myself, being curious about others, seeking to understand first rather than to be understood. But I want to be understood, but seeking to understand myself and others is really helpful. And so this idea of love, curiosity, commitment to the truth, we got to start with what's real, and that's where the hurt, holding the hurt, or being willing to see things that are uncomfortable to see. And at the same time, being hopeful and understanding that there's a lawfulness to this universe, and that when we align ourselves with the way things are, or if we live in love and come from the growth mindset, we're more apt to find solutions and to find ways of connecting. Because I remember reading a book, I think it was Thomas Friedman, and Thank You for Being Late. And he talked about Vivek Murthy, who was the Surgeon General at the time. And he said the number one health issue is is alienation or not feeling connected to ourselves or others. And so in this time of COVID, that's on steroids because people are dying alone because we can't be with our loved ones. And even when we have loved ones pass away, we're not necessarily able to attend the funeral and to be supportive of each other in the way that we're accustomed to. So I thought today would be a good time to really think about this. And the Buddhist approach to this is do good, avoid evil, and purify the mind and the heart. And so when we talk about generating hope or purifying the heart and the mind, I see them as being one and the same. That purification means to be in love, and it means to make peace, be at ease, and to see, as they talk about seeing I and the other are one, getting beyond the illusion of separateness, and realizing that if I don't love everybody, I don't love anybody. If one person is not free, none of us are free. And so just to understand that that's the idea is, even if I don't know what to do, can I be of service? Can I do what is leading to more life, leading to more connection, make me feel, because I can tell when I'm not being loving or when I'm being curt with someone, the heart shuts down. I can feel that. I can feel that there's not a connection with myself. I don't feel so connected with myself or the other. And I'm not saying that we should embrace everybody, even if they're being nasty and mean to us. But what I am saying is that we have to figure out how to do good, avoid evil, or avoid that which is not conducive to life. And if we were in touch with that, if we think about Congress, let's say, and if people had more empathy, more kindness, more compassion, that they wouldn't have gone out and leaving people without that extra $600 a week, and they would have put in a moratorium for evictions. And so there's this idea of the commitment being to Wall Street, not the Main Street. It's okay to throw $3 trillion at Wall Street. They're operating at a high, and part of that is because all of those companies that are better off, they're better off in this time of COVID, whereas the people on the lower end of the spectrum are suffering more and have less resources. So we have to balance that. We have to be willing to be compassionate and say, okay, we're going to help people stand up on their own, but we all need a helping hand. So I don't like to talk about politics, but I could see where love thy neighbor is not being practiced by Congress right now. And seeing self and other are one instead of being identified with a philosophy or with a group or reference group, to the point of not being compassionate to our communities. And it's what I call penny wise, pound foolish, because the economy is not going to flourish if it doesn't bubble up. The people who get that $600 are going to spend it in the economy and not just put it in a 401k or send it overseas. So these values are really important, because when we have those values, they actually have an impact on what choices we make. They become guiding principles, guiding ideas. And I'm not talking about being Pollyannish, because there is a need to balance the budget, but we can be frugal. We can invest in ourselves instead of investing in Wall Street. We need to invest in Main Street. How did I identify what my core values were when I started examining my life? A life that's not examined is not worth living, they say. To live the examined life, when I started examining what values made sense to me and helped me until I could figure out which ones were more appropriate for my individuality. I would say starting with love is always a good one. That's why the greatest commandment is really important. If we love our neighbor as ourselves, we love whatever our higher power or what we call God. We love that with all our mind, body, and soul. And it's getting a habit of being loving. The Beatles talked about all you need is love. And Jimi Hendrix talked about when the power of love is greater than the love of power, we will know peace. And so love, all we need is love. So love is a way, just an energy that we can start with. Kindness is another one, acts of kindness. So it's not just to feel love, but to be loving. And I talked about that: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge, self-knowledge, know yourself and know the other person. And when we love somebody, we get to know them, and because we have to know them and know how we can care, how we can respond. to them, how we can support them. So we don't have any. I think if we reflect and think about times when we felt more connected, an act of kindness might come up, or having empathy, not feeling with the other to the degree that we get angry, but being able to understand. I know what sadness feels like. I know what frustration feels like, and being with them, but at the same time offering that that generation of hope. Okay, that's happening, but how do we relate to it in a way where it empowers us, or it enables us to have the strength to get up or step up. I want to say something about what's happening right now in terms of the Postmaster General doing things with the post office where people are suffering. So not knowing what his motive is, but understanding that people not getting mail for 2 weeks or 10 days, that means people are not getting their medication. They're not getting their checks. They're not getting letters or packages from loved ones. And that's a problem. And so that has to be rectified. That's not a Democratic problem. It's not a Republican problem. The post office is a service. It's not a business. It's not there to make money. It's there to serve the people. And so when we're attacking that and we're going to sit back and allow that to happen, I think people are responding to it. 91% of respondents love the post office and see it as being of value. Yet one person or group of people are able to do something that's contrary to what we have. Because I've been to some of these small towns and rural areas. The post office is the lifeblood of that community. And so when you shut down the mail, you're hurting a lot of people, even though there might be some sinister reason for it, or even if it's a reason to be more efficient, without being guided by these values of love, compassion, empathy, understanding what impact we're having. And once we understand that, just to cease and desist and to rectify the problem, I don't see that happening. And so in terms of an act of love, we have to, as a people, put pressure on folks, or demand that they make it right and that they stop doing these acts of violence, in my mind, and hurtful actions that are helping people that have not done anything and deserve to have their medication, especially the elderly we're talking about. And we're talking about veterans. We're talking about people who are alienated or isolated and not being able to have connection. That might be some people's only connection to the outside world, especially in this time of COVID. I feel like we can use this love, kindness, and compassion and empathy to bring it into action. And you see it with the protest, and you saw it with the Women's March, that we have to activate, and we have to step up and say something and make it different, and not make it seem like, oh, that's Democrats' problem or that's Washington's problem. No, that's all our problems. I'm not a political person or anything like that, but I feel like anytime we can alleviate suffering even a little bit, that's something that should be done. Or as John Lewis would say, that's good trouble.